The name the FBI has been searching for might already be sitting inside a prison cell. That's not my theory. That's what a retired NYPD sergeant who commanded the Bronx Cold Case Squad just said. And the reason he believes this could change how this entire case gets solved. Starting now. It's day 67. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for more than 2 months. No suspect has been named, no arrest has been made. The family has put up more than $1.2 million in reward money, and not a single useful tip has come in. Ransom notes keep showing up at TMZ, contradicting themselves, demanding Bitcoin, claiming she's dead, then claiming she was seen alive. The FBI isn't buying any of it, none of it. And while everyone is focused on those notes, a retired detective just pointed to the place where the real answer might be hiding. Not in an inbox, not in a tip line. Inside a prison cell. Joe Giacalone is a retired NYPD sergeant. But he wasn't just any sergeant. He was the commanding officer of the Bronx Cold Case Squad. He ran the NYPD Homicide School. He received the Department Medal of Valor. He spent more than 20 years solving the kinds of cases that everyone else had given up on. He's now a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and the author of a textbook that the state of New Jersey requires for police promotional exams. When this man talks about how cases get solved, you listen. And what he said about the Nancy Guthrie case stopped me in my tracks. Because nobody else is talking about this, he said the tip that finally breaks this case wide open won't come from a witness standing on the sidewalk. It won't come from a ransom note sent to TMZ. It won't come from a neighbor who suddenly remembers something they saw 2 months ago. It will come from inside a prison, from someone who is already locked up, from someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Because the information about who took Nancy Guthrie is what Giacalone calls a get-out-of-jail-free card. Think about what that means. Right now, somewhere within 100 miles of Tucson, there are people sitting in cells who know things. People who run in the same circles as whoever did this. People who heard something. People who were told something. People who helped move something or someone, and now they're locked up for a completely different crime. And every single one of them is carrying a piece of information that could cut years off their sentence. The name of whoever took Nancy Guthrie is worth more than money to these people. It's worth freedom. And for someone staring at years behind bars, freedom is the one thing no amount of reward money can compete with. $1.2 million means nothing when you can't leave your cell to spend it. But a reduced sentence, a transfer, an early release, that changes everything. Giacalone laid out exactly how this should work. And the strategy is more aggressive than anything we've heard from law enforcement so far. He said investigators need to interrogate every single person arrested within 100 miles of the crime scene. Not just people connected to the case. Not just people who match a profile. Everyone, every arrest, every booking, every intake. Because in his experience, the person who cracks a case like this is rarely someone you'd expect. It's someone who got arrested for something unrelated. Someone sitting in a cell during their first week when they're scared, when they're desperate, when they're most willing to trade what they know for a way out. He also recommended that investigators bring in the DEA. Why? Because Tucson sits 70 miles from the Mexican border. And we already know that one of the ransom notes claimed Nancy was taken to Sonora, Mexico. Whether that note is real or not, the proximity to the border means federal agencies with cross-border reach need to be at the table. Giacalone is calling for an international cold case task force, not just the FBI, not just local detectives, everyone. And then he said something that hit hard. There comes a point you have to go and shake the trees and create your own leads. The FBI can't just sit and wait for someone to call. They can't keep relying on DNA results that haven't gone anywhere publicly. They can't keep forwarding TMZ emails to a database and hoping something sticks. They have to go into those cells. They have to sit across from people who have nothing to lose. They have to ask the right questions. They have to give people a reason to talk. And right now, a reduced sentence is the most powerful reason there is. More powerful than $1.2 million, because money only works on the outside. But inside a cell, freedom is the only currency that matters. If you've been following this case from the beginning, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next break in this case could come at any moment. Giacalone also had something to say about those ransom notes, and he didn't hold back. He said, "I took the ransom stuff with a grain of salt from the very beginning because it was unlike anything we've ever seen before in history. Real kidnappers contact the family directly. They don't send Bitcoin demands through entertainment media. They don't write to TMZ. They don't contradict themselves from one note to the next." Everything about these notes, in Giacalone's professional assessment based on decades of investigative work, is a distraction. Noise. Someone trying to profit from a family's worst nightmare while the real perpetrators stay hidden and stay silent. But here's the part of this story that stopped me cold. Because while Giacalone was talking about prison cells and shaking trees, another expert was pointing to something much closer to Nancy's home, much closer than anyone expected, something that might explain how the kidnappers pulled this off in the first place. Bob Krieger is a retired Pima County SWAT commander. He retired just weeks before Nancy disappeared. He spent his career working cases in this exact jurisdiction. He knows the terrain. He knows the streets. He knows how criminals operate in the Catalina foothills. And his theory is that the vacant house near Nancy's home wasn't just empty. It was being used. Krieger told Parade that the property could have been a home base or staging location for the suspect. A place to watch, a place to wait, a place to study Nancy's routine without anyone in the neighborhood noticing. Think about what that means in practice. While the FBI was processing DNA and tracking Bitcoin wallets, the suspect may have had a front row seat to everything. A house that's empty in a quiet neighborhood. No one checks on it, no one walks through, no one locks it up properly, and someone moves in quietly. Not to live there, not to steal from it, to watch, to study, to plan. Krieger said a location like that, out of the prying eye of the neighborhood, could also be a location to set up surveillance equipment, cameras, listening devices, recording equipment. Anything could be stashed in a structure or on the property without anyone in the neighborhood ever knowing it was there. And here's the detail that connects everything. Neighbor Aldine Meister told investigators she wanted them to check that house. She asked. She raised the concern. She saw something that didn't feel right. And we already know she saw a strange man walking the neighborhood 2 weeks before Nancy vanished. A man who didn't fit. A man who she believes was one of 2 or 3 kidnappers. Now put it all together. 3 reconnaissance visits to Nancy's home in January, a Wi-Fi jammer that disabled every camera on the street, back doors propped open from the inside, a masked suspect with a full backpack caught on a doorbell camera, and right next door, a vacant house that could have been the command center for the entire operation. This wasn't someone who showed up on a random night and got lucky. This wasn't opportunistic. This was methodical. Someone set up camp next door, watched Nancy come and go, learned when she was alone, learned when the lights went off, learned which doors were unlocked, and waited for the perfect moment. The house next door gave them everything they needed: time, cover, and patience. And now, 67 days later, the people who did this are still out there. Or maybe some of them aren't. Maybe some of them already got picked up for something else, a drug charge, a robbery, a parole violation, and now they're sitting in a cell with a secret that's worth more than anything else they've ever carried. The name, the face. A detail that someone let slip in a conversation that they thought nobody was listening to. That's where Giacalone says the answer is. Not in a TMZ inbox, not in a Bitcoin wallet, in a cell, just waiting for someone to walk in and ask the right question. The question I keep thinking about is this. If someone behind bars right now has the name that ends this case, how long until they decide that their freedom is worth more than their silence? Because $1.2 million in reward money didn't make anyone on the outside talk, but a reduced sentence might make someone on the inside talk. And that's a very different kind of leverage, the kind that has solved cold cases before, the kind that Giacalone has seen work firsthand. Tell me in the comments what you think. Is the answer locked inside a prison cell right now? Is it hidden in the walls of that empty house next door? And if you missed the video about the note that claimed Nancy was dead and the contradictions the FBI found inside it, it's right here. That one is critical for understanding what's really happening in this investigation right now.